Shalom and welcome to the ICEJ webinar series. I'm your host, David Parsons of the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem. We're still dealing with this more than 8-month war now between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, but there are also other fronts in Judea, Samaria, and also along the northern border with Hizbullah. And we want to focus on that today and try to answer, are we on the brink of an all-out war between Israel and Hezbollah in the north? And our guest is IDF Major in the Reserves, Avraham Levine. He is the media director for the Alma Research and Education Center. I've known about these folks for a while, heard their founder, Sarit Zahabi, speak at the big APAC conference around 4 or 5 years ago. She was excellent. And today we have their media director and spokesman, Avraham Levine. You specialize in the north and the threat of Hezbollah. Good to have you today.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Appreciate the invitation.
A little more background. You served in the IDF's Golani Brigade during your army service in Lebanon, in Judea, Samaria, and you're still in the reserves with, you said, the Jerusalem Brigade as intelligence officer, and now you've been with Alma for how long?
For almost 6 years.
Okay, and you're mainly military analysts, specialists who deal with the threat in the north. And I know Alma has put out lots of reports, recent ones I've seen them over the years about the tunneling threat and all this, and it's excellent work. But you live on the Golan with your wife and 8 children. That's not a type.
Right.
Wow, Kohar Kabod to you, but you're just a mile from the Syrian border, is in the southern Golan.
Southern part of the Golan Heights. We're all Alma workers are from the north. So either Alma, the office, for instance, is in the Western Galilee.
Yes.
Closer to the Lebanese border, about 8-10 miles from the Lebanese border. I'm in the Golan Heights, so closer to the Syrian border is my border. And one of the unique things is that we focus only on that threat. So we're out, like our weekly update, just the internal briefing, focuses on Lebanon, Syria, and some of the broader circle of Iran or Houthis, but the Shiite axis that surrounds us, and that we're currently, I think, I see the war as a war against Iran, not a Hamas-Israel war, and that's what we're focused on today.
Yes, it is there's been this shadow war with Iran going on, covert operations against their nuclear facilities and scientists and everything, but it's really out in the open now, especially since Iran fired 350 rockets and drones at Israel.
Yeah, I'm not just another night in the Golan Heights. We're all sleeping, heard the news, went to sleep, woke up, everything was all right. But yes, that was sort of a peak in the past few months. But the truth is, Hezbollah has been firing 200 attacks per month since October. Mm-hmm. The war in the north is sort of not the focus of anyone, pretty much, except people in the north. But Hezbollah has been shooting thousands of rockets, missiles, mortars, mostly short range to the area of the north. And the Golan Heights are sort of being hit from Lebanon and from Syria, from Iraq, actually. The UAVs, the drones that are attacking the Golan Heights are all the way from Iraq. And I think that's something that's sort of forgotten because we're all focused on the south. I mean, here and all over the world, we're all focused on the south. But the north is the next thing that we'll have to deal with.
I saw a report the other day that Israel has faced 19,000 rockets and missiles and drones since the war began October 7th. But I think the number in the north has now surpassed the number in the south because Israel's been able to get into Gaza and deal with some of the sources of that rocket fire.
Right. So no matter how you measure success in the south, we're definitely doing a lot to change the threat, to eliminate the threat of Hamas, both artillery and another invasion, another attack. In the north, we haven't really done that. IDF is attacking specific targets, Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, but we haven't been able to thwart any of the threats that Hezbollah is imposing And we're sort of stuck in the situation of 60,000 people out of their homes, evacuated. 43 communities are ghost cities.
You got to have
essentially.
You got to have ground operations to get in and deal with the launch sites.
It's a good question. If that's the only way, if we're forced to go to another war, that's a terrible situation. But yes, that might be one of the consequences of this. We have to stop this somehow.
Give us a little more background. We want to establish your credentials. You're an IDF major in the reserves.
Right. So for about 15 years, I was in same unit since I started. Basically, I'm in the reserve since 2003. I was a commander of a platoon, second in command in my company, anti-tank unit, infantry unit, anti-tank unit. We used actually an American anti-tank missile then. So that was about 15 years. And then I got a little too old and too many kids, and they said, maybe it's time for you to step aside a little.
That's one way to avoid Army service, not too many kids.
Exactly. It's funny, after 6 kids, you're dismissed.
What? Really?
Yes.
But you can't keep...
So after I had my 6th kid, I didn't tell anyone like officially or anything. And a few months go by, and we're actually planning to go back for a 2-week training session. And the day before, a soldier calls me. I don't even know who's calling. Someone from the Army, human resources, says, you can't come tomorrow. I said, what do you mean I can't come? This is extremely important training. She said, you have 6 kids. I said, yeah, that happened about a year ago. She said, yeah, but you're done. I said, no, send me the letter and I'll sign whatever you need. And yeah, I continued. That was several years ago.
And that's interesting. But you're in intelligence.
So for the past 5 years, yes. Another thing that's interesting is that for many, many years, we were focused on the north, just my unit. And of course, Judea and Samaria all across. And for the past 5-6 years, it's the first time we were actually shifted sort of towards the south. Mm-hmm. So for me, Gaza was a new challenge, a new enemy to study. And a difficult feeling after October 7th, and sort of my turf. Maybe I should have known, maybe I should have realized, and we were all surprised.
Yeah. Well, this will be a good opportunity to have someone who's seen both fronts and both militias you're facing to really compare Hamas and Hezbollah. Everyone is worried about, we've actually had a war in the north for 8 months, but they're worried it's going to expand and explode. And we want to really walk the people through where we started and where we are now. Where were you on October 7th?
Yeah, it's a good place to start. So October 7th, it was Saturday. My phone is off. I actually woke up late, drinking coffee with my wife, and some kid comes by, one of the kid's friends, and says, my father was called in. That's interesting, but he's in the military. That happens once in a while. I wasn't concerned at all. And then he says, yeah, also that guy was called in, and that guy was called in, and that's already like alarming. That doesn't happen a lot. And I look at my wife and I said, what, turn on my phone? She says, yeah, it sounds like something's going on in Gaza. Now, you remember, that's already like 3-4 hours
and you're
after.
Way up on the Golan.
And I'm in the Golan Heights. And the truth is, I made a mistake that day, in my opinion. I turned on my phone immediately, but I just turned on the WhatsApp and asked on our group, our military unit group, and said,
what's up?
Where do I go? Right, what's up? And they said, stay home, be ready, we'll call you. Mm-hmm. And I listened. That was the mistake. I also didn't open the rest of the news, because that's not an emergency to hear what's going on. If they'll need me, they'll call me. So I stayed home, and I sort of regret that. Mm-hmm. I feel I should have gone earlier. But that night,
it's a long way to go.
It's a 5-hour drive anyway. Just let me get closer, wherever it's safe.
Doing something.
They were concerned that the roads are blocked. Someone can be hit on the way. There was a whole mess and difficult to control the area. But I was called to the south that day. That night, I was already on the border with Gaza for about 2.5 months. down south.
So you sort of missed that the next day, October 8th, this artillery duel starts.
I missed everything. I was back home for the first time like a month afterwards. And by then, a Golani company is in our small community of 200 families. There's a whole company guarding, and people asking me in the gate, like, who are you? Where are you going? Like, I live here. Like, and this is a very rural, quiet place. I mean, we barely have locks on our doors, and now there's guards everywhere, new posts built. We're living in some kind of a military area. It didn't remain that bad, but still, our units are still, you have to remember, half of the reserves, half of my friends were called to the north, because the immediate understanding of everyone in the north and IDF was that this would be the best time to attack from the north too. This could have been us.
I thought they were coming in.
Exactly. Everyone on the border with Lebanon was thinking, well, if Hamas did that, they might be preparing, I mean, they might be ready for us too. That's why half of the force was sent to the north.
But you fought in Gaza in the ground op?
We're just outside Gaza.
In your intelligence role.
Yes.
Okay. How big of a threat, you've had the chance to study Hamas and Hezbollah, how big of a threat is Hezbollah compared to Hamas? What weapons, capabilities, number of armed militiamen?
Well, if we leave the trap that they set for us aside for a moment and just look at the numbers, you cannot really compare. Hezbollah is double the amount of soldiers, pretty much. They say Hamas is around 30,000, Hezbollah is around 50. In terms of the amount of weapons, artillery, Hezbollah has way more. Multiply whatever Hamas has, not only in numbers, but also in accuracy. Way more advanced in weapons, range of weapons, accuracy of weapons. Yes, you see, for instance, we knew Hamas has anti-tank missiles. And we knew they might have the longer range, not only the basic weapon that would be, there's short range anti-tanks for like 1,000 feet, up to 1,000 feet. And then there's the 2.5, 3 miles. And then there's the 6, 7 miles. And we were told, be aware, Hamas might have that.
It's like a line of sight anti-tank.
With Hamas, yes. But actually,
it's not a standoff. You can draw.
That's what's interesting. Hezbollah has in abundance the long-range anti-tank Kornet.
This is what chased Israel out.
And you don't need a line of sight. So all the classic, we're behind the ridge, we're fine, we're in a lower point, they can't really see us. They don't need to see us because the rocket climbs up, and then it has a camera. And I can find my targets later and then hit.
They've got
and if you add that to all the drones and cameras they have, they can basically see the whole front very clearly. And we see them studying. It's not a random 200 attacks every month. They're studying our lines of defense, finding the locations, command centers, posts, positions. They're learning what challenges the Iron Dome. You realize that in the South, we were always told, yeah, we know Hamas is attacking, but you have Iron Dome. They're not hitting anything. They didn't kill anyone, but they shot tens of rockets. It doesn't matter. You have the Iron Dome. Well, the Iron Dome doesn't really pick up well on the anti-tank missiles. And that's why Hezbollah doubled from April to May, doubled the amount of anti-tank missile attacks. That's why they're using more and more UAVs, the attack larger drones, because they're too slow and too low for the Iron Dome. So they're finding our weak points and exploiting them pretty well. I mean, they're hitting us again and again in the north.
Yeah, do you think it is testing for a wider war?
Well, of course. It's
testing capabilities in general.
Well, it's definitely testing. It's definitely challenging for us. It's keeping 60,000 people, as I said, out of their home. Is that a phase one? Or are they happy with an attrition war? That's a good question.
They said they joined on October 8th
to support
Hamas by pinning a large IDF force on the northern border to guard against an incursion,
which they managed.
Draws them away from Gaza.
Which they did manage to split us up, and we're a small army. We like calling ourselves the biggest, the best army, but we're a small army. And we were split into two.
Did Alma, I know you research Hezbollah. You saw some of the training and tactics that Hamas use in these home invasions coming across the border. The paragliders, the motocross. Did Alma put out, your research center, any sort of warning that this was coming to the north?
Well, it's sort of funny or sad. We actually, following the Nasrallah, when Hassan Nasrallah speaks to his people, we sort of listen. And he was rallying his people for war. It really sounded like he's rallying the people in South Lebanon, preparing them. We might go to war. And this, if you remember a year ago, not many people remember the whole maritime border issue about the border in the Mediterranean. It has gas, there's gas and economic consequence. So it was a big issue. And during the negotiation, Hezbollah actually attacked the gas rigs, and he was rallying his people for war. We were also just visiting with groups along the border, showing students, showing politicians, showing military advisors, showing them the border. And we saw Hezbollah getting closer and closer, more and more positions, concrete, two-story posts, not concerned with us at all, taking pictures of us, studying, following us. And putting that together, our research team actually said we're going to war in the summer of 23 to the holidays of 24, of the end of 23. So actually, wow, we actually pinpointed exactly the time.
Wow.
The only thing is we were looking to Hezbollah. I'm not taking credit at all for pointing to Hamas. We were also completely surprised that the attack came from the south.
The thinking is Hamas jumped the gun. They had to keep it secret among a few leaders that even the guys in Doha didn't know, Hezbollah didn't know. But because Israel mobilized so fast and evacuated the civilians within a couple days, Hezbollah lost the element of surprise in the north.
So there's two schools of thought. One would be what you said. Hezbollah was surprised just like us. Maybe knew about the plan, but not the specific timing. Because the plan is a good
They were
plan.
talking openly about multi-front, coordinated.
Exactly, unification of fronts.
Front is united.
Exactly, and that didn't happen, which really shows us that might be your school of thought.
There's daylight between them.
Yeah, and you're saying maybe Hezbollah was surprised. Hezbollah will never play the second fiddle to Hamas. Because if you ask me to compare, so just thinking about a pyramid, a hierarchy of Irani proxies, because that's what I consider them, Hezbollah is the top. They're the diamond.
The crown jewel.
Exactly.
Reich is just called.
Exactly. Good for him.
Terror.
And he's doing a good job. And Hamas is on the bottom. I'd put them under the Shiite militias in Iraq, in northern Iraq. I'd put them under the Shiite militias in Syria. I'd put them under the Houthis in terms of the weapons, the range, the amount.
Because they're kind of closed in Gaza.
And remember, they're Sunni. They're not really part of the Shiite
have the same
axis in that sense. Exactly. It's not a perfect fit. I like to joke around that Israel connects people, right? We're connecting terrorist organizations from all over the Middle East. So Hamas, if they jump the gun, Hezbollah will never join. It's beneath them. That's one school of thought. Actually, Salit, our president and founder, thinks the other way around. She says that this was all planned. And maybe the goal was a war of attrition in terms of Hezbollah, and they sacrificed Hamas so they can study us, tire us, waste our ammunition, and it's just a test. And we'll see what's next. Maybe they don't want to go to an all-out war tomorrow. Well, maybe they'll be happy if we start war and we're the aggressor. But they don't want to start. They could start whenever they want. By now, it would be a surprise. But maybe they're happy with the current victory. This could be their greatest victory, is kicking Israel, not the IDF, but Israel back 5 to 10 kilometers, evacuating 60,000 people out of their homes, dispersed all over the country. Maybe Hezbollah is happy with that. Let's try and maintain that situation and see when Israel gets tired.
There's been reports that the Radwan force, first of all, explain who they are, but that Israel has sort of pushed them back. The the UN Security Council resolution at the end of the Second Lebanon War said all those militias have to be above the Litani River, about 10 to 12 miles north. Have they retreated that far, or are they still entrenched on the border?
So first of all, let's say the Radwan unit is the attack forces. They're units. Some of them have experience from the war in Syria. Remember, Hizbullah joined Assad, Iran and Russia, essentially saving Assad's position and life.
They fought
against the rebels, exactly. All across Syria, Hizbullah fought and got a lot of experience for the first time in conquering, in the attack art of war, so to speak. And now that they have that experience, Hizbullah or Nasrallah doesn't have to threat if you come to Lebanon. Now he's threatening, I'm coming for the Galil. Because he's confident they can attack, they can invade. And they've published videos of this attack. There's nothing new about it. There's a video from 10 years ago showing an attack on the Galilee exactly like Hamas did on October 7th, including the first phase of a barrage of rockets, and then a second phase that every unit goes to a different community. And he speaks about using the civilians as human shield. He brings all of these things up, and this is public TV, El Mayadin station. It was all over, at least in Lebanon. We were not following. We forgot about that threat. We were focused on the artillery threat.
Yeah.
And now
the law playbook, but Hamas carried it.
Exactly. And Radwan are the units that are in charge of the invasion. They don't have a defensive position. Their position is that community, that army.
An elite commando force.
Yes.
Twice as big or so, 5,000 or so from the Nukba force in Hamas that carried out.
Right. So I don't know the exact number, but I guess between 2,500 and 5,000, it's somewhere there. We haven't managed to kill many Radwan fighters. We've killed 300 Hezbollah members since IDF has killed since October 8th, including high-ranking. But I wanna put it in a different angle. We haven't taken away any operational ability yet. So all of these headlines that are good for us to show that we did something, of we're hitting them in their own turf, and how accurate our intelligence is, and that's all true, and that we've been attacking Lebanon essentially for the first time since 2006. That's all true. But are we able to eliminate any of the threats? The answer is not yet.
Yeah, that was my next question. How much has the IDF weakened Hamas, especially along the border? You had a 3-week air campaign in Gaza before the IDF went in. That sort of Western NATO doctrine, weaken them with superior air power and all, and then send your forces in. But you'd still have to have a much more intense air campaign in the north before you actually sent troops in.
Exactly, and the trap, we like to say that everything Hamas does, Hezbollah taught them. Mm-hmm. We see that with the tunnels that we met first, the tunnels just connecting rooms and houses in Lebanon, and we saw them in Gaza, the cross-border tunnels. We found also in Lebanon, once we realized they had, Hamas have, and it's more difficult to drill tunnels in the north, obviously, because it's not sand. It's a hilly area, rocky area, but we assume that the trap in Lebanon is just as complicated, and the geography is way more challenging than the flat land in Gaza, that we chose where we want our entrance point. Which we won't be able. You can't really choose the routes in Lebanon. There's certain routes, and they're pretty clear, that we're going to have to use. There is no other way in. Mm. So I think an invasion will be complicated, will be difficult, and like you said, the greatest asset is the surprise. We took out their surprise on October 8th. Great. How do we create a surprise now if we want to hit Hezbollah really in their heart, eliminate the threats, stop them? Because we want to bring our people back. Our goal is pretty clear. Mm-hmm. In the north, it's bring 60,000 people back to their homes and allow them to live safely. If Hezbollah just stops shooting, that's not eliminating the threat. That's just kicking the bucket, a few feet forward. And I think in the south, we're doing pretty well in terms of the military attack. Still work to be done. Hamas laid maybe the best land trap that I studied. But I think Hizbullah is also waiting, and I think that's the next step that we have to solve.
It seems from what you're saying that, Hezbollah has also been called the A-team of terror militias.
I'll buy that. I'll work with that.
That Iran has built them up as the model for all these other militias in Syria and Iraq and the Houthis and Hamas to all sort of model and try and aspire to do what they do. But that puts the onus on Israel to really deal a blow to Hamas, to show these other militias it's not worth it.
Right. It's not the goal going into Gaza. The goal is not to show everyone else. The goal is to eliminate the threat. But one of the benefits is they see how serious Israel takes an attack.
Hezbollah gets the message.
Hezbollah might get the message. I don't buy deterrence in that case, but they'll take that into consideration. That might be the conclusion of, if we attack, this might end the same way. Let's think about it again. That's possible.
They have the same mentality as Hamas, that we really don't care about the civilians, the higher the price and all. It's just a necessary sacrifice, as Sinwar supposedly said. Does Nasrallah have the same mentality that Lebanon can burn, we have to destroy Israel?
I'd even take it a step further and say, when you see mothers apologizing that only one of their kids was killed, then you realize who we're facing.
These are ideological nuts, mad.
And when you bring together the politics and religion combined, you realize they always bring together, even though it has nothing to do with the religion. Because I know people from both religions that are fine with Israel and happy to be in contact with me. But when you, for instance, what did we call the conflict? The current conflict. What did IDF coin?
Swords of Iron.
Very good, Swords of Iron. What did Hamas call it?
The Al-Aqsa storm.
Exactly. Why the flood or storm? Very good. Why Al-Aqsa? Because the goal is Jerusalem. The goal is Temple Mount.
And all the Hezbollah guys dying, they die on the road to Jerusalem.
Exactly.
To Al-Quds.
El-Quds. Why did Iran call that force in charge of the proxies El-Quds, the holy city, right? So they mix religion and politics together, and that ideology is what we're facing.
All right, the IDF has they're saying they're almost finished in Rafah. Within 2 or 3 weeks, they'll finish. It was important to secure the border between Gaza and the Sinai, to cut off the smuggling tunnels and everything that they can get in there. They're still dealing with some of the terror cells reforming in Gaza City and central Gaza, but it's almost the next phase and a priority to get the hostages out. But do you know, are you aware of any decision by the Israeli government, the leaders, the military? It's now time to go in, because all the prognosticators said May, June, the war's going to start in the north. We're halfway through.
I heard that news. No, I attribute the date as just a goal of, let's be prepared for that date. I don't see it as a real date of that's when we're going to go to war.
You don't think the political echelon, the prime minister and Gallant have already made a decision about entering Lebanon?
I don't think so. I think we like you said, it doesn't matter how advanced we feel or how accomplished we feel in the South. We have to finish our business there. And going to war against Hizbullah now on the ground, my guess is we'll stop any negotiations, and we're still hopeful. Even though Hamas is the one saying no again and again, everybody wants a deal. In Israel, the world, international pressure, everyone in Israel wants a deal. We want them back. And we'll deal later with the consequence. I know people held in Gaza. I wish we can bring them back in, with this miraculous, heroic operation like the one we just saw. But that was 4 out of, and we have another 120 in there.
Fun.
A good friend that served with me is there, and he's a young male, so he's last on the list, right? He's not a kid. He's not elderly. He's not sick. One of the videos that Hamas released was him, Omri Miran. So I think we're still sort of hanging on, also because of international pressure, but also internally, we all want to reach a conclusion in terms of the hostages, and then later live with the consequence and, bring the people back to their homes, rebuilding Be'eri, Kfar Aza, Nachal Oz, Niroz. So I don't think we're going tomorrow. I'll tell you a secret just between us, because it's only us here. It's pretty easy to know if we're going to war or not. I don't see the commotion.
The signs are a much heavier air campaign in the north.
Exactly. You see people in the reserves. I don't see that, truthfully. I don't see that happening yet. Is that the next step? Yes, but I don't know if it's probably not today, not tomorrow. Could it be next week? Can it be in a month? Yeah, it could definitely be. There's also the question of weather, right? There is a time limit. There's a window right now that's open. No one wants to fight in Lebanon in the winter. Winter is a cold winter in Lebanon, colder than here in Jerusalem. Beautiful country, by the way, Lebanon.
Yeah.
I wish we have.
I love that
we have a different.
The Golan. It's my heart is.
So I don't see it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But is that one of the things that's on the table? It's one of the main options that's on the table, and I see that definitely as.
I mean, it could always escalate over some incident, an accident, whatever.
Oh, a mistake on either side, and when I say mistake, I mean not only a strategic mistake, but if Hizbullah make a mistake and shoot Nahariya, that's
with a big casualty,
with a lot of casualties instead of Kiryat Shmona that's empty.
That's what happened.
Then we go in. That's essentially what happened in October, in 2006, July 12th. Hizbullah attack a border patrol. 2 hangars hit them with anti-tank missiles.
Drug a couple bodies back.
Take 2. Yes, we don't know their bodies at that point, but yes, and by noon that evening, we're already at war. And for a full month, we're at war. And Nasrallah, head of Hizbullah, later says, if I would have known kidnapping 2 soldiers, he doesn't talk about the other 3 that were killed in the attack. He says kidnapping 2 soldiers, if I would have known that the result, I wouldn't have done it. That's not because he wasn't apologizing to us, right? He wasn't telling the world, oh, I didn't mean to kill 2 soldiers, I apologize. He was telling his people, the destruction of your towns in the following month, I didn't take that into consideration. Next time I'll think about it, I need a good reason. That's why when we saw him rallying his people, preparing them, this might happen. We're calling you to duty. Join the effort to take over the Galilee in videos and when he speaks, their information unit speaking about war, we were saying he's preparing something.
It was an apology to the Ayatollah in Iran as well, because they built up Hezbollah as a deterrent to protect their nuclear program, I understand.
I think we only slowed them down. Yeah. By the way, people might say, going back to your previous question, that this is all diverting attention from Iran, from the nuclear issue. Everybody's busy with Israel is doing this, Israel is doing that, what's happening with the kids in Gaza, what's happening in Lebanon, and no one has the time to deal with the major issue in Iran.
Crossing the nuclear threshold. Let's go talkless. So you think right now Hezbollah, Nasrallah is content with the war of attrition and probing Israel's defenses, that they really don't want all-out war right now, and which really is a decision made in Tehran, and the Israeli leadership, we don't see the signs yet that they've made that decision.
I'll put it this way. I don't know if Nasrallah wants war or not, and I sort of had enough of us guessing what they think. Yes. I think one of the things we should have learned by now is stop making assumptions about what they're thinking. Look at their abilities, listen to what they're saying. If we would have done that with Hamas, we'd be in a completely different situation. We made assumptions. What were we saying? Sentences like, what would they benefit from attacking Israel? We're allowing workers to come into Israel from Gaza, Palestinians coming in. They're bringing food back home. We're allowing Qatar to bring money into Gaza. Why would Hamas attack? Ignoring them saying they want to attack, ignoring the abilities, ignoring the tunnels. And that's where we found ourselves. So I think we shouldn't be thinking about, does Hezbollah want war? I don't know if they want war or not. I know now They're trying to hold us to attrition. They're just slowing us down, holding our soldiers there, keeping our people out of their homes. That's the plan of today. Tomorrow is a brand new day. I don't know what they plan.
Even though the ratio in the north, you've lost 15 soldiers, 10 civilians, they've lost over 400 and some.
And by the way, they have 90,000 people left their homes in Lebanon. Yeah, that's fine. They can live with that. By the way, it's interesting. There's most of South Lebanon's Shiite villages. Mm-hmm. There's a few that are Christian.
Yes.
Actually close to the border. Right, so Remesh is one of the towns, and it's in a valley right under us. And Hizbullah tried about a month ago to shoot rockets from Remesh using the Christians as human shield because they didn't evacuate Remesh. And if we retaliate towards Remesh, then now we're killing Christians. They don't care either. So the people of Remesh have been in a hard and difficult position today.
Okay. Help me with this question. I've seen all sorts of estimates. You mentioned the 2006 Second Lebanon War. After that, UN Security Council passes a resolution. Tzipi Livni, Israel's foreign minister at the time, very proud of this resolution. One of the planks, no more weapons transfers to Hezbollah in Lebanon. It's banned. And yet they've been able to build out to like 10 times what Hamas has. What's your estimate on the arsenals? Is it 30,
so first of all,
1,000?
So first of all, let's put it this way. First of all, there's after resolution 171, 10,000 soldiers from all over the world are in South Lebanon.
UNIFIL,
United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, beefed it up. Probably the biggest peacekeeping force in the world, and they're not doing a thing to eliminate the threat. They didn't find one rocket, one missile since 2006.
They're not allowed to go into the Shiite village.
We mapped 27, 28 areas, military areas that Hezbollah does not allow UNIFIL in. When UNIFIL makes the wrong turn, they're thrown back, probably shot at sometimes, burnt vehicles, sent back without their weapons. An Irish soldier was killed about a year ago. He was on his way home. It wasn't even in South Lebanon, UNIFIL territory. He just entered the wrong village and was shot from zero. Just shot in the head. So UNIFIL, and this is important to emphasize before we go back to the weapons, because I hear this plan, let's push them back to the Litani, no more weapons, let's bring a nation, international force. We did that. Why are we doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome, right? That's the definition of insanity. In terms of the numbers of weapons, we're talking, Hezbollah altogether, we're talking about 150,000 short-range mortars that they're using, that the most popular weapon since October 7th, 8th. We're talking about 65,000 longer range, in the range of 20, 30 miles. So basically the whole north, including Haifa, Tveria, all of those rockets. We're talking about another 5,000, 10,000 of the longer range, both accurate and non-accurate. So we're talking altogether about thousands and thousands of missiles, rockets, long range. They can basically hit all the way to Eilat. There's a video of Nasrallah showing a map of Israel. And he says, I can hit the whole north. I proved that in 2006. You think I can't do it now? I can shoot the south, but that's empty. He's right about that too. He jokes about that. And then he says, my target is the coastline. I want the shore. He knows where half of Israel lives. Yes. He says in his words, from Netanya to Ashdod. He's going for Tel Aviv. That's the Holy Grail. I don't think Avnei Tan in the Golan Heights is an amazing target. It probably won't reach the New York Times headlines anyway. But when he hits Tel Aviv, he hits Tel Aviv.
It was news when Hamas was able to reach it.
Exactly. And I think that's what his goal is. You have to remember, I don't think the missiles and rockets will win the war. Hezbollah can't win a war against Israel with rockets, with missiles, with UAVs, drones, because we have shelters, we have Iron Dome, we have David Sling, we have an Air Force, but they can paralyze us. And that's what they did in the north, because he's choosing to shoot only the north. He can paralyze us for months with thousands of rockets every day.
Yeah, I think the IDF estimates that it would be up to 4,000 rockets a day.
and a continuous effort. Not
day
a
after
week,
day after
day after day after day.
Which
pretty much
Israel has to speed up the pace. They've gone slow in Gaza, and you got to get into Lebanon fast and push them back, and all the launch sites have to be taken by force.
And that's why when I hear another idea, let's push them 5 kilometers back, what's that give me? That doesn't stop any of the weapons I just mentioned. 5 kilometers is not enough for anything. I won't eliminate any threats.
And you don't think Israel is really ready right now, the population and the army, for that sort of all-out warfare with us?
No, I think IDF is prepared. I think we'd rather finish our business in the south.
Gaza.
Yes.
Does that include getting the hostages back?
I think that's one of the main targets. I think that's one of the main targets. I hope as many as possible are still alive.
I just have this sense that Israel needs to get the hostages back, and then hold elections with a new government that will have a fresh mandate to deal with Hezbollah, because it's a whole different level of battle, and you're going to have the estimates are 5,000 to 10,000 casualties, civilian casualties in Israel.
It's very difficult to listen when you hear the estimates. American military commanders were here. Remember, it took us, like you mentioned, 2-3 weeks to go into Gaza. Right? We didn't just go in immediately. It took us time. Built up our force, prepared. And the estimates then were thousands of soldiers killed in Gaza. And the estimates were hundreds of thousands of Gaza civilians and non-civilians killed. We're way under that estimate, right?
It's been
about 300 soldiers were killed in Gaza. Civilians in the south are pretty safe.
So the soldiers, unfortunately, by friendly fire.
Oh, yeah, way more than I'd like. I completely agree. It's interesting what you're saying about the elections, because it would give, it might give a little more support, both international and internal. On the other end, it delays everything by 6 months.
Sure.
And that's something that I think, I don't know if people want to take that time out. 6 months, we have to, build up our elections, a new government, not necessarily a different one, by the way. Democracy, things happen. There's a good chance we'll stay with about the same team.
Yeah, I've lived here 27 years, been visiting since 1982. Our ministry has been here 44 years, since 1980. And we care about all of Israel. And I say this for the sake of the whole country. I just think it would be better if Israel really takes its time to really prepare mentally for what get the hostages back and deal with this, because I think October 7 shows Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, they are seriously out to destroy you. Couple more questions. Is it also smart for Israel to wait until this Iron Beam, these laser defense systems, they finish developing it and deploy them on the northern border? Because that'll handle a lot of the short-range mortars and rockets.
I don't like waiting for technological developments. If we have an opportunity to do it before, I'd rather do it before. It could be an amazing advancement. So if we do have them, that would be amazing. But I wouldn't wait necessarily for the next generation. Then there's another generation and another generation. And in the meantime, kids are out of school, parents are out of jobs, living in hotels with no kitchen unit, and not an amazing way to build a life for the people in the north. There's a lot of economic consequence. There's no tourism in the north. I'm from Golan Heights, a very popular area, and I still hike. We still go with the kids, and you go swimming and you're alone there. And we're used to, looking for places to park. And today we can just go everywhere, and I'm on my own.
Yes.
And a lot of businesses are collapsing. So we'd rather make it quick. Maybe it hurt, but we'd rather a quick operation. If we have to wait, we'll wait. But I think it's time to start thinking and also presenting the world with the fact that we're going to have to do this.
Yeah.
This is going to have to
saying this week or this month, but you think Israel needs to go?
I think we have to solve, yes. I don't think we have time to just see, let's plan this, let's give it 6 months and then a year, and let's wait till this happens. Maybe maybe this guy goes away, maybe this guy comes back. Let's wait till we get Sinwar. Maybe another president in Iran will fall with his helicopter. I don't think the waiting game is the right way to go. I think for the past, maybe a long time already, years already, we're basically stalling. We're buying time on all fronts. We're actually not solving, not eliminating any of the threats.
Yeah.
And one of them just blew up in our face. And why let that happen again?
No, you can't let it continue to build up. All right. Very interesting to hear this perspective, but we'll see signs of an increased air campaign, a lot more troop movements in the north if Israel's really going.
Yep.
Israel's been telegraphing its punches so obviously in Gaza for certain reasons, but you'll see that in the north.
I think it will be the same in Lebanon. I don't think we can go into Lebanon to binge bail or to Maroun Aras without telling the civilians before. So basically, I don't think this is not a commando operation, stealth operation that will surprise everyone with 50 soldiers that will go in and solve the threat of Hizbullah. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a bloody, difficult war.
I think you mentioned it, that Israel has already given the UN the maps of all the Hezbollah's weapons storage places, where everything is, and given it to UNIFIL. And
when IDF started this operation 5 years ago, that we found the 6 cross-border attack tunnels, Hezbollah tunnels, and UN says they actually acknowledged their tunnels. Not whose tunnels or who dug them. They just appeared out of nowhere. And I met 2 UN soldiers, so intelligence, right? So I go over and I said, did you see the tunnel? And they said, yeah, we went in. So I said, oh, interesting. From the other side? I said, oh, no, we're not allowed to go in the other side. So thank you very much. You saw the tunnel from my side. I also saw the tunnel on my side. Your job is the other side.
Yes.
They weren't allowed into the tunnels from the other side.
Oh, it's a game. The U.S. and especially France are frantically proceeding with a diplomatic effort once more to try and head off a all-out war in the north. And Amos Hochstein, President Biden's special envoy for Lebanon and trying to calm things down there, he's back again. What's your read on him? What is he trying to do, and is there any chance of a diplomatic solution that would avoid an all-out war that Israel can live with?
So who's the 2 sides of the diplomatic agreement that you're speaking of?
Yeah.
Israel and?
Yeah, you're not going to sign directly with Hezbollah.
So I'm signing with Lebanon?
Which is a puppet.
In the past half an hour, did we mention Lebanon? Not once. They're not a side in this war.
And it's unfortunate. I think the majority of Lebanese do not want Hezbollah. They want them out of there, and they're under their grip.
Exactly. So I think Lebanon is sort of a third party that's out of the equation for some reason. And I love them. I think they should be in the equation. In many ways, they're responsible for this situation. But when I meet groups, I test them a little. I ask them, for instance, when I say Nasrallah, Hassan Nasrallah, many people know who he is, heard of him, recognize his face. And then I ask, who's the prime minister of Lebanon? And no one knows his name.
It's either a Jimael or an Ayoun, those families.
No, so Ayoun was the president. But Najib Mikati is someone not mentioned. I didn't hear him on the news
He's
once.
the prime minister now.
And I did not see anyone from France or saying, Najib Mikati, get a grip. Do something about this. Your country will be attacked.
They've had a caretaker government for a decade.
Exactly. So, and they don't have a president currently because they couldn't choose because Hezbollah vetoed all of the options up to now. So I think Lebanon should be held responsible, just like Egypt should be more held responsible for a lot of things coming in and out of Gaza that caused this problem. For some reason, we're focused on Israel, our government, and forgetting about the other parties here. And I think a diplomatic agreement is useless if you're signing it with the wrong party. You have to remember that the last negotiations that Hochstein facilitated, U.S. facilitated, was about the maritime border that we mentioned. And Lebanon insisted that part of the agreement, the wording of the agreement will be, this is not a beginning of normalization. This is not a beginning of a peace process. They insisted that's in the wording that we had to sign. We didn't even sign the same paper. You didn't see anyone shaking hands, right? We signed a paper and gave it into U.S. They signed a paper. U.S. put them together and sent them to UN.
So it's like Resolution 1701 that Tzipi Livni was so proud of. It's worth.
It's a piece of paper. I need an agreement. I'm not against an agreement. I need an agreement that has a deadline, has a date. We have to finish by this time. There's a way to enforce it, which we don't have right now, because if you ask UNIFIL, they'll say they're a humanitarian, and they assist. They do help. I'm not saying they're lying about that, but they're not eliminating the threat. They're helping the people in Lebanon, and that's fine. That's good. But I need an agreement with enforcement, with a deadline, something that I can work with a price tag. What happens if that does not happen? Which currently we don't have.
Yeah. So your assessment is that Hezbollah is content with the war of attrition for the foreseeable future, but that eventually Israel can't live with that and is going to have to go.
I think either way we're going to have to solve the problem. Will Hezbollah attack? I didn't bring my crystal ball.
And then the problem there is, there's all this misguided sympathy for the people of Gaza. They should be mad at Hamas and not Israel for what's happening there. But there's probably going to be even more sympathy for the poor Lebanese who are exploited in all this. They've already had a civil war, but it's right down to you have to have motivation yourself. You can't depend on UNIFIL or anyone else to defend you. The lesson of October 7, never let down your guard, and you got to keep that guard up in the
Exactly. Hands up, chin down, and as long as our guard is up, that's the closest thing to peace that I can hope for. If we lower our guard, I think Golda Meir said, if they lay down their weapons, right, we'll have peace. If we lay down our weapons, there won't be an Israel. So I think that's true. I think she hit it on the spot.
All right. All the best to you, all the folks at Alma, and to your wife and 8 children.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Safe and happy summer. I hope you stay safe up there.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. We've been talking to IDF Major in the Reserves, Avraham Levine, with the Alma Research and Education Center. It's a unique frontline think tank strategic assessment that focuses on Hezbollah. You can go to their website, Alma, A-L...
Israel Alma.
Israel Alma.
Israel-alma.org.
That's right. Israel-Alma, ALMA.org. They're a great institution founded by Sarit Zahavi from an IDF female officer, and she's terrific too. It's been great having you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's our time on this week's ICEJ webinar. Join us next week, every Thursday, 3 p.m. We're coming to you live from Jerusalem. And also at the top of the hour, remember at 4 p.m. Israel time, you can join us for our global prayer gathering. Join with Christian leaders and intercessors from all over the world for 2 hours of prayer for Israel and this region. As we've been talking about, we need your prayers. God bless you from Jerusalem.
Thank you for joining us for this informative webinar. Be sure to subscribe to our social media channels or visit our website at icej.org for upcoming webinars and more ICEJ exclusive content.